Welcome back to the Tech Stop, and today we have an interesting video. This multimeter is from the 90s, or I don't know if it's exactly early 90s, mid 90s, or late 90s, but I believe that it hails from somewhere in the 90s. If you know exactly when this meter was popular, go ahead and put that in the comments below. So this meter right here I got for free the other day when I was doing some work for someone who had some RG6 pools that did not have good connections on them. They were old style like crimp-on connectors that were not put on correctly, and they just pulled straight off. So I went and put some Belden compression connectors on it, and then they gave me this meter and asked if I knew about it and if I could do anything with it, and I said sure. And the box is a little rough. It's been around for quite some time, and has some tape on it here and just dirt and tears and things like that, but the meter inside was in spectacular condition. Now I've gone ahead and put new batteries in it and everything, but even the batteries that were in it were not corroded. So I got really lucky with this unit here. So opening it up, you'll see the meter right here, and it's not been exposed to much. The whites are still very white and have not turned yellow from contact with sun or light or anything like that. And it's been in its box the whole time. Also have the leads over here that were used for something else, and they're kind of beat up a little bit, but they're still in alright shape, and I can use different leads on it. Now, once we take the unit out of the box, something that's interesting is it still has its manual. And back when these electronics were made, they were much more simple, and you could repair a lot of it yourself. So they give you the schematic here for the diagram of how this whole unit works inside, and you'll see that this thing is put together 100% handmade, and all the solder joints are done by a person and not a machine. Getting the box out of the way, we have the unit again. You'll see that it does DC up to it goes down to 1/4 volt up to 250 and 1000 volts. You go ahead, try that out, and you tell me how that works. I'm not going to try any high voltage stuff with this meter. Then you have your DC amps, the bottom left, your AC volts, the bottom right, which says up to 1000 volts again. Also, would not try that. And then your ohms up top right. That's just to test resistance, and I use it a lot for continuity. But if you look here on the top, you have different ranges, and depending on what notch you're in right here depends on what range you're in right here. So DC, when we're going to use the second notch in 2.5 volts for most of the stuff that we're going to be testing today, because they're just going to be 1.5 volt D-cell battery and a AA. So we'll be somewhere in between the 0 and the 2, hopefully closer to the 2 if the batteries are at good condition. And then up top we have the AC range, and then the ohms range all the way there. These meters were built pretty well, and they're huge. They have a carrying handle on it, and I mean, things just aren't built like they used to be. When we go ahead and flip it over, I'll just give you a brief peek at what the inside is like. It's nothing too spectacular or anything, but it reminds me of the ECUs that were in older cars, like in the 90s. It has a 9-volt battery and a AA battery, a 10 amp fuse at the top, and then your circuitry down here, and you can tell that all that soldering is done by a person. It's not precise enough or clean enough to be done by a machine. And all these right here look like they're just hand-picked out of the electronics store, basically. All your resistors, diodes, capacitors, and things like that look like something that you would see out of those older ECUs. Overall, this worked pretty well, and still works well today. So whatever they did back then has lasted for at least 20 years. I'd like to say that it is older than 20 years, but I don't know, and they didn't put a date on the box or on the unit or anything. So that's a little bit disappointing, but it's in such great shape that I'm very glad that I got it and got to show everyone about it. So now here's a closer view of the meter, and we're going to go ahead and test the first battery on it. So I'm going to go ahead and put my positive in right here and my negative in right here. I'm going to go ahead and use this D-cell that's right here, and I'm going to do it out of frame because it would just be too hard, and then you wouldn't be able to see the multimeter itself. So I'm putting the negative on the negative, and here's the positive. And you'll see that it moved up right there to about, looks like 1.5, 1.6. and I have this set to 10. So that shows me exactly the range I want to be. I don't know why I said 2.5 earlier, but as I was processing it, I'm going to put it to 10. And also, here's a button cell that I found. Now, this is just a CR2032. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on backwards, change polarity, and then there you see it right there. That's about 3 volts exactly. Also, I have this AA. It's 1.5 volts, just like the D battery. So we should see similar results there. And just about the same as that D battery was. And it was very hard to see for the camera because my camera is not good enough to be able to zoom in that far and still have any sort of focus whatsoever. But if you can't tell by the camera, it's in immaculate shape. But the biggest thing is, it's safety. Most employers or job sites or anything would just laugh if you brought this thing in because, all the category ratings and safety ratings that are enforced upon everyone in the trades that require a multimeter. OSHA regulations require you to have something that's safe because you don't want your meter blown up in your hands if you put it on something. And I personally would not put this on 1,000 volts AC any day. I wouldn't even put it on anything above 240, if that. I have no need to because of the other meters that I have. If you're doing something, this is more of just a cool thing to have at home and an antique in a way. I'm glad that it still functions how it's supposed to. But you need to have the right tool for the job, and as technology has progressed, we have seen the benefits from that. And but yeah, this is just something neat that I thought people would get a kick out of, and this is the Micronta range doubler multimeter. 43 ranges, 50,000 ohm volt DC and 10,000 ohms volt AC. The color-coded mirror on it is 4¼ inches, and fused and overload protected. Requires only a AA and a 9 volt. That's just the bullet points on the front. I'm sad that they don't make any analog meters like this anymore, because for some things it is definitely nicer to have. But some functions like continuity with the buzzer or a sound is nice to have in the newer meters. But hopefully this was enjoyable. Thanks for watching, and check out some of my other videos.